Hi there, I'm sharing another weekly wrap-up and talk about the 10 books I read during the week. I started the week out with 6 library books that I have already given back, so I can't show the physical copy that I read them in to you, but I will put a picture. The first book I read was On Beauty by Zadie Smith. This is a story about 2 families, each having their own problems and unique family situations, and to say it in very short, hate each other quite passionately, and then problems start to come when 2 of the children of those families fall in love with each other. The book had a lot of conflicts, a lot of political and religious discussion and options and viewpoints, and showcases the different society classes and how race and gender plays part in your status, and how the littlest thing can change your status either for the better or for the worse. I really loved the writing style and the ideas, and how the author managed to point out the issues without trying to tear them apart or dissect them completely, or trying to tell the reader how they should feel about the issues or points that the book is trying to make. And instead of doing that, Smith basically just pointed out the problems in a very real and honest way, and states the things as they are or have been or should be or could be, and then lets the reader decide what they want to feel or think. I'd love that Zadie Smith really left the option to the reader if they're for or against or with the characters and what they do and how they reacted to situations. And the writing was great, and it was a great book, and it really put Zadie Smith on my reading radar, so I can't wait to read something else by her and see what she does with that. And then I read Burke and Dubai by Anne Pratchett. This is a retelling of a real event where in a South American country, a singer and the guests of a party are taken hostage for a few months. Overall, this book was okay. The writing was nice and easy to read and very flowing, and didn't drag the story out unnecessarily. I did have quite a few problems in this book. The biggest problem for me was how the author really got overboard with the extreme love for music in this book, and then I felt that this book was a bit too romanticized for my personal taste. Now, this is after a real event, as I said, so I don't know if the music love and the romanticized moments that I felt were a bit too much were actually happening or not, but Pratchett did a pretty good job in telling a very difficult story in a very real and honest way, so I really appreciated that about the book. And then I read Committed by Elizabeth Gilbert, and this is basically the second part of her bestseller Eat, Pray, Love, where we follow her along once again while she's traveling the world and trying to figure out if she wants to build a life and a relationship with this Brazilian guy that she fell in love with in Eat, Pray, Love. I did not enjoy this book at all, so I will keep this very short instead of rambling on and on about this book. For me, her biographies feel very fake, and that is why I did those, because there is just, if she's really that kind of person as she portrays herself in those 2 books that I read by her, I feel very sorry for her, because she just comes over as a very swallow, self-absorbed, very, very unhappy and hopeless person to me. And I can honestly say that if Gilbert is really that kind of person, or if she's just a writer that says it's biography but it isn't, this book didn't agree to me. And then I read The Gathering by Anne Enright. This is about a very large Irish family where a mother has 9 surviving children after 1 child has died. And the entire family comes together for the wake, and one of the siblings has to collect the body of the dead and keep it company while the others assemble so that the wake can start anyway. And while all that is happening, we get moments from the past of the family. This book was supposed to be full of wonderful writing of betrayal and redemption and family moments, and overall 3-generation family aspect, and lots of twists and turns that come with all of that. But I can't say I saw that, because I just found it mostly very confusing and unsatisfying to read, and I don't know why. Because I really love Anne Wright's writing style. It's very poetic and flowy feeling, and she really knows how to form words and put them in a sentence to make them appear very beautiful. And I love that if writers manage to do that, but I just cannot get behind the plot of her books. I don't know, maybe I'm too stupid to get it, but for me the entire plot felt like short stories put together to tell a larger story, but big chunks of what is really happening are missing, and those missing moments explain what really is happening, and I don't get it. I read the entire book, I finish it, and I'm sitting there not getting what the heck just happened and what the story tried to tell me. This book was just isn't for me. Anne Wright's writing just goes over my head apparently. Let's just move on to the next book. Then finished up the last two library books, part 2 and 3 in the series of Triton and of Neptune by Anna Banks. This is, as I said, part 2 and 3 in a trilogy, so I won't be giving you summaries for each of those books because that would spoil the first book, and that would be sad because really guys should really pick up the first book. This series is a mermaid book series where the books focus on Emma, who grew up as a human, and a full-blooded mermaid, or merman if you want to call it that, and they meet and the story involves from there. But it's a paranormal romance, so you guys should pretty much figure out what the story is all about. When I read the first book a few months ago, I really enjoyed it. It was fantastically written, and it was one of the first mermaids books I really enjoyed, so I was very excited to pick up the second and third one from the library. The second one was still pretty good. The writing was great. The characters were mostly done pretty well. I liked that the second book picked right out where the first one left off, so that was fantastic. I enjoyed the background information and royal system that Banks created and wrote about, and it was very interesting to get all that information from her. And it was overall cute, if a bit cheesy, but it was still a fun and lovey-dovey kind of book, so really enjoyed the second book. Third one, on the other hand, I just was completely disappointed in that. The second one ended the story and the plot point of the first and second one pretty much perfectly. It was all wrapped up. We knew where the characters ended up, we knew what happened to them, we knew what they wanted to do from that point on, so we really didn't need a third book. So maybe it was my own problem because I gone into the third book thinking that Emma and her boyfriend go on a road trip and there are no previously known characters other than those two, and it has a completely new plot point and new characters, and I just felt like I was picked up and dropped in a completely different scenery, and I had no idea where I was and what was happening, and it didn't work for me. I do recommend the series. It's a fantastic series, but just leave the third one out. And then I picked up 4 review books. I received those books for free, but they're still my honest option. There is no difference between if I buy the book myself or if I get them to review or if I get them from the library. The first review book I picked up was The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Were. This book is about a journalist, Lou, who goes on a press launch tour of a luxury cruise ship, and while she's on that cruise ship she hears a woman being pushed off the ship into the ocean, and from that moment on she tries to figure out what happened and who died and just what happened on that cruise ship and why nobody else seemed to be missing somebody, since no one from the ship's passengers and the crew is missing, so nobody heard anything and nobody really believes her, so the story involves from there. Writing was great in this book. It really was wonderfully paced, and I loved the few unexpected plot twists that were happening, and even though you could see them coming, you never really knew what the twist was really about until the twist happened, so that was fantastic. I do have to say that I don't really understand the beginning of the book, where Lou is being burglared and what happened with that and what that has to do with the entire rest of the story, because I didn't get that, and I also didn't get what Lou's relationship at the beginning of the book has to do with the rest of the book. Those were moments that I really didn't get, but I really loved the book from the moment on that Lou stepped onto the cruise ship, and since that is what the book is about, I really recommend that it's a great thriller, so you guys should read it. And then I read Vinegar Girl, The Taming of the Screw, retold by Anne Taylor, and this is, as the title says, a retelling of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Screw. This book starts out with Kate, who feels like she's a bit stuck in her life and just doesn't know where she wants to go. She doesn't really know how she ended up running the house of her rather eccentric scientist father and her pretty stupid younger sister, or how she ended up working as a teacher's assistant even though she kind of hates that job. She doesn't know where she wants to go and what she wants to do with her life. And then her father comes to her one day and basically tells her that Kate now has to marry his research assistant so that guy can stay in the country and continue helping her father with his work. And Kate is furious, understandably, and feels completely underappreciated. The story just kind of tells if she will be giving in or not. The beginning was wonderful. I really enjoyed Kate during those times because she's just a very honest and sometimes a bit crass character in stating her options, and I just love that because it is very unique, and she didn't do it in a brutal way. She didn't do it to hurt feelings. She just, in a way, she was very childish in how she saw the world and how she answered to the world. The actual actual plot of the story didn't change, and with that, Kate lost some of that fire she had at the beginning. It was a bit disappointing to me. I think Taylor could have made the story way better if she would have put a different and unique spin on the original play. But overall, it was a good book, and if you love Shakespeare's works and his retellings, this is definitely a good one to pick up. And then I read one of my favorite books of this month so far, and that was The Ringmaster's Wife by Christy Cambron. And this story is about circus life. It follows two different women. The first one is Mabel, who becomes the wife of one of the Ringling brothers who own the circus, and the second is Rosamund, who becomes one of the artists in the circus. Rosamund comes from a wealthy family, and of course her family is not very happy at all when she decides to follow her dream and continue riding and become part of a circus to ride a horse. Marvel Lives is told in flashbacks moments, and they are sometimes very similar to what Rosamund is going through and sometimes completely opposite of that, but it's just very fitting how Cambron manages to fit Rosamund's story and the past of Mabel together. It just worked. Cameron really manages to transport you into the story and keep you with the characters and the circus in a very realistic and vivid way throughout the entire story. I loved the real aspects that she brought to the story because there really was the Ringland brothers and Mabel, and I loved how she managed to make those real characters mixed with those fictional characters and how she meshed those together that you really can't tell if that is a real character or a fictional character. I loved how she managed to write that kind of story and mix it so wonderfully. This book I just loved it, and I really recommend it. It's just a wonderful book. And lastly, I read another thriller, and that was The Sister by Louise Jensen. In this book, we follow Grace, who hasn't been the same since her best friend Charlie died, especially considering that Grace is kind of haunted by what Charlie said last to her when Charlie told her that she has something very big to tell Grace, and that will change Grace's option about Charlie. Grace tries to figure out what her best friend meant with that, and with that the story involved. I personally thought it was a bit too much happening in the story overall, because we had the very naive girl in Grace and the dead best friend in Charlie, and we had the mysterious past from both of them and the storylines that follow with those pasts, and then we had the storyline of trying to figure out what Charlie meant and what she did and all that. And then there was also bullying and destroying relationships and secret siblings popping up and kidnapping and murderous psychos and crazy parents, and it was a lot in one book to read about and keep it all straight and follow along and not feel a bit overwhelmed, because that is what I felt like in parts of the story, that too much was happening at the same time. But the writing was pretty good, as plot points that actually involved Charlie and what happened to her was great. So I love those aspects. I just felt that there was a lot crammed into one book, and I would have loved it way more if Jensen would have focused it on Charlie's aspect and not added all those extra things. And that was it. Those were all 10 books I read during the week, and I would love to hear if you want to read any of those, or if you have read any of those and what your thought about it. Please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what books you read during the week. And if you have any recommendations from the book you recently read, I just hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!